It was early morning, and the city was awakening in a hush of possibility. Split-second rays of sunlight stretching between skyscrapers, turning them into towering silhouettes, while below, a symphony of horns, distant sirens, and hurried footsteps filled the air. Breads toasted in corner cafes, steam curled from coffee cups, and the chatter of passers-by rose like a chorus. Yet amid the rush and rhythm, one figure moved differently, calm, deliberate, almost at odds with the world around him. Who was this man, and why would his morning soon become the spark of a seismic shift? Jamal West, in his mid-30s, wore a suit so sharp it might have been carved from marble. His shoes clicked on the pavement in measured taps, each step an assertion of quiet confidence rather than flashy bravado. A gentle smile curved his lips as he straightened the cuffs of his white shirt, its crispness rivaling the dawn. He had just left his favourite diner. Eggs softly scrambled, turkey bacon crisp to perfection, a side of fresh fruit, where the staff greeted him by name and slid his order over with a nod of familiarity. In his pocket, his phone buzzed, a message from his mother, reminding him of dinner that evening. Family mattered to Jamal, anchored him in a world that could so easily feel adrift. He approached his sleek black sedan, minding the glow of the dashboard lights, still visible through the window, when two officers appeared out of nowhere. Their badges read Riley and Jenkins, and their gazes bore into him with a cold intensity that made Jamal's heartbeat hitch. He'd been taught early by a father who walked through similar streets that courtesy and calm were his best shields. He slowed, lifted his chin, and met Officer Riley's sharp eyes. "Excuse me, sir," Riley said without a greeting, voice flat and demanding. "Can I see some ID?" Jamal raised an eyebrow. "May I ask why you're stopping me, officer?" His tone was steady, respectful, but Riley's mouth twitched in a smirk. "Just show us your ID. Simple request." As Jamal produced his license, the second officer, Jenkins, hovered behind, hand brushing his holster. The air crackled with something unnamed: suspicion, impatience, prejudice. Instead of returning Jamal's card, Riley's gaze flicked back to his face. "Where are you coming from?" he asked, voice edged with accusation. Jamal replied calmly, "I was at the diner down the street grabbing breakfast." Riley's eyes narrowed. "We've had reports of suspicious activity here," he said, the smirk widening. "You matched the description." A lump formed in Jamal's throat. This scene felt all too familiar. A well-dressed black man, polite, doing nothing wrong, yet treated as though he were a threat. "It's a misunderstanding," he said softly. "I'm just on my way to work." Then Officer Riley leaned forward. "What work?" "A lawyer," Jamal answered. The single word hung between them like a challenge. Jenkins snorted. "A lawyer, huh? You sure there's nothing illegal in that car of yours? Pretension, spite." Jamal raised his hand, stepped back. "Officer, you're welcome to check, but there's nothing to hide. I'm just trying to get to my car." Riley's posture stiffened. "Step away," he ordered. Jamal complied, hands smooth on his jacket. But before he could even speak, Riley grabbed his arm, wrenching it behind his back. Pain flared and he gasped. Jenkins shoved him to the pavement. "Stop resisting," Riley barked, yanking out cuffs. The word stung. Jamal had done nothing but follow orders. Around them, neighbours paused. From a nearby balcony, Mrs. Agnes Carter, a lifelong resident, cried out, "He didn't do anything wrong." Meanwhile, a young couple on the sidewalk recorded with their phone, whispering, "This is messed up." As Riley hauled Jamal upright and shoved him into the squad car, Jamal's voice rang out, crisp and unwavering. "This isn't over." The door slammed and the engine growled to life, carrying him away from the stunned crowd. Inside the station, beneath cold grey walls and buzzing fluorescents, Jamal's wrists bit into the metal cuffs as officers processed him. Riley and Jenkins escorted him past desks where colleagues glanced up, their eyebrows lifting at the sight of a sharply dressed man in custody. At the fingerprint station, Jamal stood mute, his breath even, mind racing with memories of injustice and resolve to remain composed. Then, shoved into a cramped holding cell, he sat on the narrow bench beside a stainless steel toilet, the air thick with bleach and something fouler. "Make yourself comfortable," Jenkins sneered, slamming the cell door. But Jamal's calm was unbroken. He folded his hands in his lap, ears attuned to every footstep beyond the bars. Jenkins and Riley retreated, their bravado intact, until the younger officer Stevens intercepted them. "I think you need to know who this is." Stevens whispered, urgency in his eyes. Jamal West is a prominent civil rights attorney, been in all the big cases. Riley paled, his smirk vanishing. Stevens pulled out his phone, scrolling to an article detailing Jamal's victories against police misconduct and corporate malfeasance. If this leaks, it could blow up, Stevens warned, voice low. As Stevens dialed urgently for the captain, Thompson walked into the station. Lieutenant Kate Thompson surveyed the scene, officers busy at desks, a growing murmur at the front windows. Steel-framed and in her late 30s, her eyes missed nothing. She called Riley over. "What's going on here?" she asked, voice calm but commanding. He stuttered through a resisting arrest explanation, citing suspicious activity as their justification. Thompson's gaze hardened. "Let me see him." Inside the cell, Jamal met Thompson's eyes with the same measured calm he'd shown all morning. "Lieutenant, I complied with every instruction," he said softly. Thompson turned to Riley and Jenkins. "Is that correct?" Their uneasy nods spoke louder than words. Then Stevens appeared at the door. "Ma'am, you should know who he really is." He showed her the phone screen. Thompson's breath caught. A courtroom titan. A force for justice. This was no ordinary suspect. The station buzzed outside as dozens of protesters, friends of Jamal, and media began to gather, chants rising in a wave of righteous anger. Thompson felt the walls closing in. She pulled Riley and Jenkins aside. "Full written report, every detail, tonight." Then to Stevens. "Draft a press statement. I need to control this narrative." Back at the entrance, the crowd swelled to over 100. Placards raised, cameras whirring. Activists, community leaders, even local politicians loomed at the barricades. Thompson watched through the glass, chest tight. If she stayed silent, it would erupt. If she spoke too soon, she risked the department's credibility. Finally, she decided Jamal would go free. She returned to the cell and unlocked the door herself. Jamal rose, expression guarded. "Lieutenant Thompson," he nodded. "I'm deeply sorry for what happened." Her apology was sincere, measured. "There was a misunderstanding. You're free to go." Jamal studied her a moment, then inclined his head. "This isn't over," he said quietly. He emerged into a roar of cheers. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted his name. But Jamal moved with grace toward his waiting family, embracing them with relief. Thompson watched from the threshold, face unreadable, knowing that while today's crisis had been diffused, a larger reckoning had only just begun. As Jamal walked away, the station behind him seemed forever altered, and so was the promise of justice he carried forward into the fight ahead. The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long, golden slashes across the station's lobby as Jamal climbed into his car, surrounded by a flurry of camera flashes and triumphant shouts. He felt the warm squeeze of his sister's hand on his shoulder and the steady presence of his mother at the window, her eyes bright with pride. Yet even in that moment of victory, a tremor of anticipation ran through him. This was only the opening salvo. Behind him, Lieutenant Thompson retreated to her office, the station's chatter echoing like distant thunder. She sank into her chair, the weight of every decision pressing on her chest. Each command she had given, reports, press statements, the misunderstanding narrative, felt like fresh ink on a page that could still be rewritten. Thompson's reflection in the window shimmered against the city skyline, a mirror of resolve and regret. She knew the Internal Affairs Division would soon arrive, notebooks ready, and that Riley and Jenkins would face unrelenting scrutiny. In a corner of the station, Officer Stevens formatted his memo, words flicking across the screen. Subject: high-profile detainee, immediate release recommended. His fingers paused as he considered his next move. Could he trust that this note, this single keystroke, might change the culture of the department? Outside, chatter among the rank and file turned to speculation. Would Stevens be hailed as a hero or scapegoat? Meanwhile, Riley sat alone in the locker room, his uniform hanging limp at his side. The date events replayed in his mind like a reel of mistakes. The smirk that became a frown. The gut feeling that should have been checked against facts. He closed his eyes and saw Jamal's calm, steady gaze. An unspoken challenge to do better, to confront his own biases before they did harm. And as dusk fell, The streets around the station hummed with renewed energy. Activists planned meetings, lawyers drafted filings, and community members lit candles on porches in solidarity. Jamal, at home now, ran his fingers over the cuffs that still lay on his desk, silent reminders of the injustice he endured. His heart thumped not with fear, but with determination. The true reckoning was just beginning, and with every breath, he prepared to turn this wrongful arrest into a movement for real change. What comes next will test them all: the law, the system, and the courage to face hard truths. Stay with us, because the story is far from over.